When you're buying a home in Atlanta, it is super important to make sure that you have the right strategy, especially because of how difficult it is getting to buy a home. So let's talk about the best strategy for buying a home in Atlanta, Georgia. Here in Atlanta, when you're buying a home, we have something called the due diligence period. In many places, this is referred to as the inspection period, but it's a bit different here in Georgia. I know in many parts of the country, especially like Florida, they have an inspection period and it's usually like a few weeks long. And during that time, you can inspect the home and then you have the seller maybe make some repairs. And if the seller doesn't want to make those repairs, then the buyer is allowed to terminate the contract. It's a bit different here in Georgia. And so, this is, in my opinion, one of the strategies that you absolutely need to know about. The due diligence period here in Georgia is really designed to make sure that the seller is cooperating with the buyer's due diligence, or they're inspecting of the home and inspecting of the title, and they want to make sure that the seller is cooperating with the buyer as they're trying to make sure that that transaction goes through. This is important because many times people who are watching this channel are coming from another state, and it's hard to like figure out, how do I buy a home in a completely different state, and how do I attend inspections and all of those things when I'm thousands of miles away? Well, what we do here at Atlanta Suburban Living is we do video tours for people who want to see homes. And so we come up with a list of the homes that they want to see, and then I will go out to those homes and either FaceTime them or Zoom call or whatever we need to do so that they can see the home on the video tour. And then usually we make offers based on those video tours. Once that offer gets accepted, then the client or the buyer comes into Metro Atlanta to see the home in person during the inspection period. If for some reason while they're here in person, they realize that the home is not actually what they saw in the pictures or the videos, or something is wrong with the home, then they can completely feel free to terminate that contract. And when they do that, there's no penalty. So that way, we very often use that due diligence period to help out clients who are looking to buy a home in Atlanta from a completely different state. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the suburbs of Atlanta. This next thing that you really need to know about for coming up with the best strategy to buy a home in Atlanta is figuring out whether you are targeting new listings where you're going to get the best move-in ready homes, or are you going for a home that's been on the market for a while and you can get a deal on the home? So let me explain. When you have a listing that comes on the market, typically here in Metro Atlanta, sellers who have their home just brand new to the market, usually like 7 to 14 days or less, those sellers are usually expecting list price for the home. If for some reason that home is not move-in ready, or maybe the pictures didn't come out very good, or if anything is wrong with that home, then the way that the market has been going here in Metro Atlanta is that those homes that are not absolutely perfect, those homes tend to stay on the market for at least 30 days, because usually right around that 30-day mark is when sellers finally come to terms with the fact that they're not going to get list price. And so usually around that 30-day mark is when sellers are willing to take less than the list price. So very often what we're seeing with the homes that are going under contract here is that the move-in ready perfect homes go under contract within about 1 week, and they go for list price or higher. Or it's the homes that have been on the market for a month or 2 months that go under contract below list price, and the buyer gets a deal on those homes. Now, this is obviously up to you. If you want to go after the perfect move-in ready homes, you don't want to put any money into the home. You don't want to have to like move in and like do painting, or you don't want to have to move in and change flooring. Then you want that perfect move-in ready home. Then you really need to be having all of your lender documents ready to go. You have to be ready to make aggressive offers for those homes. Or you're looking at a home that has maybe needs some new paint work or it needs a new flooring or whatever it might be, some minor cosmetic issue, and those are the homes that you can get a deal on. So it's really two different strategies that you are going to use when you're buying a home here in Metro Atlanta, and you can't mix the two. That's really what I'm trying to get at here. Like, if you're going for a home that's move-in ready that you don't want to put in any kind of money when you move into it, then you can't make lowball offers because the home is brand new to the market and the seller is not really going to accept less than list price. Conversely, if you're going for a home where you're trying to get a deal and that's really the most important thing to you, you need to understand that it's hard to get a home that's perfect and move-in ready if you're going to also get a deal. You really have to choose one of the two: move-in ready or get a deal on a home. And that's really something that is super important when it comes to buying a home here in Metro Atlanta. The next strategy that you really need to remember is what season of the year you are buying a home in, whether it's the springtime, which is the busy season of the year, or like the winter, which is the super slow season of the year. Whether you're trying to buy a home in either one of those cities, if you have any questions about what it's like to buy a home here in Metro Atlanta, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. I'm always happy to help, even answer any questions that you have about what it's like to buy a home here. But these two parts of the year are very different because the school year for kids ends around middle of the spring or late spring here in Georgia. The busy time for real estate, that is when there is the most amount of buyers, is going to be during the spring. Now, this is also when you see the most amount of listings because sellers know that there are more buyers. So naturally, the sellers often wait for the spring to list their home. So there's more buyers and there's more sellers during the springtime. And then in the fall and winter, there are less sellers and less buyers. What this means is that during the springtime, you're going to have far more options for homes, but you're also going to have far more competition for homes. And then during the fall, you'll have less options, but you'll have a lot less competition when you're buying a home in the fall. So that also means that the buyer can dictate many of the terms of the purchase during the fall because there aren't as many other buyers. But it's during the spring where you're going to find the best homes, the ones that are the most move-in ready, the most beautiful homes, ones with the perfect backyard in the best neighborhood. Those sellers know that they're going to get the most money for their home, so they wait for the spring to sell their home. One thing to really keep in mind here in Georgia is that the school year starts very early compared to other parts of the country. Because the school year starts the first week of August here in Georgia, this means that the real estate market tends to slow down right around the end of July and the beginning of August. So if you're trying to time the market to get the most amount of options for homes and not a lot of competition, in my opinion, the best time of year for that is going to be right around the beginning of August, where the buyers have kind of already figured out where they're going to move. So typically there are a lot less buyers come the end of July. So the beginning of August, there are still a lot of homes for sale. Sellers have just started to list their home in the springtime, and there maybe is still a lot of options left over in August, but there's less buyers. This, in my opinion, is the sweet spot for buying a home. More options, less competition means you really can get the best deal on a home. Another thing that's super critical to understand when it comes to strategies for buying a home is how appraisals work. If you're buying a home with a loan, you're going to have an appraiser. So the bank wants to make sure that you're not offering a crazy number for a home, so they send an appraiser to the home to make sure that the home is worth that much that you're offering. Now, here in Georgia, if the appraiser determines that a home is worth what you're offering, or maybe it's worth more, then no problems. We continue with the contract. No need for renegotiating anything. However, if the appraiser determines that the home is worth less than you are offering to purchase the home, then we have an issue where the buyer is no longer obligated to pay the purchase price of the home, and the seller is not obligated to lower the price. of the home. So we have a new negotiation to determine the new price of the home because obviously the bank is not going to lend that amount to the buyer anymore. This can certainly help out if you're buying a home and the appraiser says, hey, actually, the home is not worth that much. So you can possibly pay less for the home if the appraisal is low and the seller comes down in price. And so this is certainly something that's very helpful for buyers. Another important strategy when it comes to buying a home is the kind of lender that you use if you're using a loan. For example, big companies like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, even credit unions, they tend to be a bit slower. They don't have as good customer service, and sellers will look to see what kind of lender you're using. If you're using a smaller lender, like a mom and pop kind of lender who has excellent customer service and they always answer the phone, especially nights and weekends, which is where most of real estate happens, is during the evenings and during weekends. So the seller wants to make sure that the lender is going to be able to help out if there are any issues with the contract during those times. If you're using a big bank like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, it's going to be difficult for them to answer the phone. They're not going to answer the phone on evenings and weekends. And so it's going to be problematic. And sellers are always going to prefer offers from buyers who are using lenders that have better customer service, that are going to help out with finding solutions to any problems that might come up during the contract period. Making sure that you're using the right strategy to buy a home is super important when it comes to buying a home here in Metro Atlanta. In fact, there's a whole set of houses that I would suggest you do not buy. These are the homes that you definitely need to completely stay away from. And those homes I've talked all about in this video right here. Make sure you check out this video if you want to know which homes you need to stay away from. I'll see you in the next video.